If you're in the running for an entry-level watch and you're wondering if you should save some money and buy a £320 Tissot PRX or splash out on something more expensive like the £850 Christopher Ward 12, I'm here to answer that question. Let's have a definitive look at the two hottest entry-level integrated watches. If you want to help support the channel, I'd really appreciate it if you visited Watchfinder.com, where there's thousands of pre-owned watches to buy, sell and trade. Thank you. When you don't have a bottomless bank balance, choosing a watch, especially ones you can only get online, can be really tough. There are a lot of different factors that impact the price, and some, all or none of those may affect you personally. So let's take a look at these two titans of the hugely popular budget integrated class and see where those differences lie so you can best make that decision. We'll start with the case, which here are within a millimetre of each other between the 35mm PRX and the 36mm 12. Both brands offer a 40mm version as well, with the Tissots wearing larger thanks to the rigid first links that effectively become extensions of the case. A rule of thumb for me would be, if the Moonwatch or Moon Swatch wears comfortably on your wrist, go for the larger size from the two, and if it doesn't, the mid-size is probably more suitable for you. That's how they wear, but how do they feel? The Tissot is simple, blocky but well formed. It's the most pared back iteration of the integrated case we've seen. That certainly doesn't make it worse, particularly if you prefer your watches utilitarian and unfussy. A flat case and simple round bezel, both with a hint of bevel to stop them looking like a low poly render, is all you're getting in a predominantly brushed finish. By comparison, the Christopher Ward is a catalogue of detail. In essence, the principle is identical, but where the PRX is happy with a sofa and TV in the middle of a room with eggshell painted walls, the Christopher Ward brings in a few potted plants and hangs up a picture or two. Most noticeable is with the bezel, which evolves in its form from top to bottom. It starts as a brushed circle, blends into a polished dodecahedron, drops down with vertical bead blasted sides and spreads back out into a circle again. Markedly different, and perhaps to some too fussy, although many would consider it entirely appropriate for a genre built on its excessive looks. The remainder of the case isn't too dissimilar aside from the addition of crown guards on the Christopher Ward, brushed, beveled and polished and held in place with hex screws. The case back on the Quartz PRX is unadorned and transparent on the automatic, where again the 12 ups the ante with a replication of the bezel treatment. When it comes to securing either watch to the wrist, the bracelet is always going to be the more popular, more durable option, and with the PRX, it comes as standard. The way it mates to the case is par for the course for an integrated watch, with two blended lugs on the outside clinging to the first inner link. To bring down cost, each link is one stepped piece, rather than three. Like the case, it retains that blocky minimalist simplicity with brushed front faces and the hint of a polished edge on the inner link. It's quick release and there are a number of third-party options to switch it out for too. For £850, the 12 only comes on rubber, which is very comfortable and nicely detailed, with a beveled outer edge and inner recess on the outer face, and a raised texture on the inner to maximise breathability. This time it actually joins at the outer edges of the case, again quick release, an unusual detail that, unless I'm mistaken, is unique to the Christopher Ward. There is a bracelet available, but it pushes the price up another £200 to £1,050, and it follows a similar principle to the PRX's. Single staggered links with a polished top lip. Here though, the polished lip runs the full width of the link, and in general the edges between them are more crisp. Clasps on both bracelets behave in the same way as a double deployant, with the 12's rubber strap shipped on a buckle. There's no micro adjust for either, half links doing sizing duty as you'd expect for these kinds of clasps. But what you're looking at most with these watches is the dial, and that's where the difference in spend is probably most noticeable. On the Quartz PRX, the dial is brushed, and on the automatic it's got a waffle texture, both executed to a reasonable degree of fidelity, but nothing you'd want to apply too much magnification to. The hands and markers tell a similar story, simple, functional and nicely designed, just don't look too close. It is, after all, a £310 watch, and to be generous, the quality gives it a feeling of being new old stock vintage, which has its own charm. But so long as you don't have Superman level vision, you'll find it to be a perfectly nice dial. As is probably expected, the same upstep between the cases is also true of the dials. The 12 has a consistent texture across all the dials, a repeating pattern formed of a prismoidal representation of the brand's logo. The hands and markers are substantial, finished with precision and much more of a feature than on the PRX. Where the PRX dial can feel a little two-dimensional, the 12's is very much built in layers, with a substantial parallax effect occurring as the watch moves around. The cheapest PRX gets a quartz movement, but double the price and you'll get a mechanical, and this is perhaps where the two watches meet in the middle. The automatic PRX gets the Powermatic 80, an automatic movement with a substantial 80 hours of power reserve. By comparison, the steel Christopher Ward is home to a Sellita SW200, which can only muster 38 hours of power reserve. That means you can't leave the watch for a weekend and expect it to still be running come Monday morning. In terms of precision, the 12 Sellita is within spec up to 20 seconds out either way, and the Powermatic 80 doesn't have an accuracy figure quoted, but it is likely to be around the same. One point to mention that may impact your decision is that Tissot have been known for using plastic escapement components in the Powermatic 80. It doesn't reduce performance, in fact, they're technically better, but it may not sit in line with your expectations for a mechanical watch. Choosing between the two certainly isn't a case of asking how much money you have and buying the most expensive you can afford. The Tissot PRX, especially in quartz form, offers a discreet and affordable option for people who want something to wear in the office or in the city and not get clocked, while still enjoying something a bit special. The Christopher Ward, on the other hand, is a very flashy, very noticeable watch that catches the light at any angle, with its mirror-polished surfaces and razor-sharp angles. You may end up upsetting people who think it costs way more than it actually does. They both have their places in the world and, in some cases, in a single collection. But if you're only after one, hopefully this in-depth guide will help you make that decision. What's your take on the Tissot PRX versus the Christopher Ward 12? Think the extra spend is worth it, or does the design peak at Tissot? Let me know down in the comments, and please do like and subscribe too. And if you could spend a moment checking out watchfinder.com as well, I'd be very grateful. Thanks.